has nobody to blame but herself for her mounting legal troubles. Her criminal action was willful, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful.
It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump on the campaign trail this weekend in the wake of the FBI announcement. It's found new emails relevant to the Clinton investigation, and we're back now with the panel. And the news is breaking while we're on the air. Our colleague Brett Baer has just sent us an email saying he has two sources who say that Anthony Weiner, who also had co-ownership of that laptop with his estranged wife, Uma Abedin, is cooperating with the FBI investigation, had given them the laptop, so therefore they didn't need a warrant to get and to see the contents of said laptop. Pretty interesting development. Let's talk about the politics of all this, because we actually have an election in 9 days. Jerry, there was, I think it's fair to say, a growing sense that Hillary Clinton was leading in this election and probably going to win it. But now that's called into question. I want to put up a new ABC News Washington Post poll that is out this morning. It shows that this is now a one-point race in a four-person contest. Clinton 46%, Trump 45%. And this was taken this weekend post-FBI announcement. Let's go to the impact on whether about supporting for Hillary Clinton. 63% say no difference, but 34%, that's 1 in 3, say it makes them less likely to support Clinton, and there is a sizable Democratic component in that 34%. So the question, Jerry, is, does this sense that Hillary Clinton was sailing to victory here, does that go out the window now?
Well, look, I think this race was destined to tighten anyway. They always do at the end. I mean, you have undecided voters who are starting to drift toward Donald Trump a little bit anyway, because if they hadn't decided at this point, they may have already decided not to vote for her. You have some Gary Johnson voters, the Libertarian candidate. His support was shrinking, and those people look a lot more like Trump supporters than Clinton supporters. And you also have some Republicans coming home, which tends to happen late in the game anyway. So I think there was going to be some tightening. This probably increases the tightening, but you also have to say, on the other hand, that a lot of the country's already locked in one way or the other. And there may actually be a small silver lining for Hillary Clinton, that a lot of her voters were getting a little apathetic. It's all over, we've won. They're probably more motivated now. So I think in the aggregate, it's clearly not good for her. I think the extent that it impacts the race is hard to predict at this point.
Lisa, the Clinton email scandal has been going on for literally a year and a half now, and a lot of people, including myself, felt that it had already been priced into the polls. You knew how you felt about it, and that was already reflected in who you were going to vote for. Does the reopening of the FBI investigation change that?
I do, because if you look at polling after FBI Director Comey had given his press conference, 56% of voters disapproved of Comey's decision to not recommend an indictment. 60% of independents did as well, including 31% of Democrats. So I think there was this general sentiment that she kind of got away with something, but having the cover of having the FBI not recommend an indictment sort of shielded her and protected her from some of that criticism. And now that door is reopened. And if I'm Donald Trump, I'm not going to get into the nuance too much of this, because there's still a lot of lingering questions. All he has to say is the fact that we have a candidate for the first time in history facing an FBI investigation. And also, he has been on the campaign trail driving this message of draining the swamp, of corruption in government, running as the outsider. And, what better narrative do you need than this to make that point? And, to Jerry's point, I do think this helps Donald Trump, but it also helps on the down ballot races, because now Senate Republicans running in tight races don't have to be on the defense. They get to go on the offense.
Let me pick up on what Jerry was saying, and Lisa. George, does this energize Trump supporters who may have been losing hope as the polls seem to be going against him? What impact does it have on people who were going to hold their nose unenthusiastically and vote for Clinton because of that, and now might just stay home? And to pick up on Lisa, what impact does this have on the Republicans trying to hold on to the Senate?
Well, it could well be that by slowing whatever momentum Mrs. Clinton had, it does help the down-ballot Republicans. But it does strengthen the fundamental Trump narrative, which is burn it down, blow it up, I'm terrible, but who could be worse than the people running Washington? It's the Casey Stengel vote. Let me explain. 1962, the New York Mets are en route to losing a record 120 games. Their manager's Casey Stengel. One day he looks down at his bench and says, "Can't anyone here play this game?" And I think people look at Washington and say, no one there can play the game. And so it strengthens, in a sense, the perverse Trump message, which is, I may be awful, but what could be worse than what we got?
And why do you think it could have an impact on the Senate races?
Well, because some people can say, well, let's go out and vote for people for whom we could have some enthusiasm. Maybe a Senate candidate we like, a gubernatorial candidate.
And I suppose it also adds to the argument, if Clinton is going to be the president, that they need a check on her.
Yeah. Exactly.
Chuck, is this a potential game changer in your mind? And to get to this question, which I was talking about a little bit with Mike Pence, can Trump take advantage of it? Can he stay on script? Lisa said, he's just got to make this point, keep it simple. You've got an FBI, you've got a presidential candidate who's under FBI investigation. Can he stick to that?
In answer to that question, I would say if anybody in politics could blow this, it would be Donald Trump, because he has fumbled away so many other gifts. So yes, of course it's possible he could fumble it away. But to the first part of your question as to whether or not it's a game changer, I'm going to say a tentative no, simply because the polling on this race has been, even though the margin of Hillary's lead has been variable and it's now at a lower ebb, she's never really been behind, not since the conventions. And I think that, as you were saying before, the email thing is largely priced in, and as George pointed out, millions of people have already cast their ballots. Having said that, I think what is interesting about this is that Hillary is now trying to actually turn it into an advantage. The way she's talking about it is to cast herself as the victim of this sort of perfidious FBI director, and in effect inflame and rouse the Democratic base over this issue.
Let's pick up on that, because I'm surprised that she decided she had to address it at some, but she is, as you say, making it a kind of, as you say, that she's the victim and taking on Comey in a very aggressive way.
And when you really think about it, there's no other play. Because in truth, the email thing is a mistake. Her own people have admitted it. She's admitted it. The only way to turn this to her advantage at this late date is to present it as sort of a dirty trick. She's not saying that openly, but let's face it, there's a lot of conspiracy theorists in the Democratic Party base too, as well as the Republican ones. And she is attempting, and who knows, maybe it'll work, to cast herself as the victim of a dirty trick.
Lisa, final thought?
This is also the FBI director that she had previously praised after he had came to his former conclusion.
Yeah, but come on, the political hypocrisy on both sides is extraordinary here. Well, the Republicans were rigged. You had Trump saying it's rigged.
Absolutely, I concede that. I mean, everyone's a little bit full of it here. But real quick regarding the down ballot, the better Donald Trump does at the top of the ticket, the better those Senate Republicans in tough races are going to do. So that's how it also helps the down ballot.
Thank you, panel. See you next Sunday.